Hey everybody, it's time for our weekly curling segment, and what a day to announce this. Before we bring in Cathy, Gauthier, decorated curling skip Jennifer Jones has announced she will retire from women's team curling at the end of this season. The six-time Canadian Women's Curling Championship, plus an Olympic gold medalist in 2014, wrote on social media today that this season will be her last skipping a women's team, although she will continue curling mixed doubles with her husband, Brent Lang. The 49-year-old from Winnipeg will skip a team in the Scotties for the 18th time of her career, starting Friday in Calgary. Cathy Gauthier knows a little bit about that. She won 3 championships herself. Cathy, welcome to the RP show today. This news today.
Thanks.
Were you shocked? Hey, welcome to the program. What do you think of this news?
You know what? I have really mixed feelings. The one side is I completely understand. 2005 was Jennifer's first win. I was with her on the ice. I don't understand how almost 20 years later she still has that drive. So no one can question, she's won everything there is to win. It's time. The challenging part, I feel, is that this is going to be a big distraction for her team. They just found out recently. And so these 3 other women now have to worry about who are they going to play with 2 years until the Olympic trials. So good for Jen, but I feel bad for the other 3.
Oh, well said. And, for those going in Calgary, I haven't heard that the Scotties is sold out, but a month ago they were very close. So all of a sudden now we know that you're going to be watching Jennifer Jones for the last time. Let's be honest, that's put quite a bit of chutzpah on this event at Winsport.
Huge. I think that Jennifer is the GOAT, the greatest of all time, and Carrie Anderson is definitely worth in that conversation, but 20 years is a very long time. And so this will be the last chance you have to see Jennifer play in what is probably her favorite setting, which is women's curling. She is going to play with Brent, her husband, but I think that anybody that doesn't have a ticket, it's a great way to pay a tribute to somebody who's done a lot for our sport.
Curling.ca/tickets. It's an unbelievable field. And same thing for the Brier, which is March 1st to the 10th in Regina. And that field is finally all rolled out. Cathy, with all your decorated history in this season of champions, how much of a pang do you get to be out there? I know you're behind the microphone and so forth, but it's not the same, right?
It's not. And it's not as bad now because it's been a while, but I used to look sometimes, and if the women were really struggling with the ice, I used to think, Cheryl Bernard was in the booth. What if we just threw a team together? I just wanted to be out there because there is nothing like the adrenaline of playing in a Scotties or a Brier. And the 2 cities they chose this year, Calgary, which is almost sold out, Regina, which is one of the biggest heartbeds of curling, just simple things like the applause for shots that people understand. This is where curlers who are average human beings get to go to be superheroes, and you never, ever get over wanting to have that moment.
Well, I look at the fields of both, and we cover all sports here, and I often say you can always find something about any game that's interesting, or any draw, or any, Brier field, Scotties field. Well, I guess we got this young gal in Skylar Ackerman going for Saskatchewan to her first.
Yeah.
And I worry about her a little bit, but we all had to do it, the first time. So what, any advice for her?
Do you know what? I watched that Saskatchewan final and I was so impressed with her. They carry themselves so well. The biggest thing is, I feel, is just to go in and embrace it. You are playing in one of the greatest championships that you can play in as a curler. And so embrace the moment. I look at her pool, and the top 2 seeds in her pool are Carrie Anderson and Caitlin Laws, both of whom are not only great players, but they're really nice human beings. And so they're not going to be out there on the ice with players that aren't nice to play against. And I think that will also give them a sense of comfort, because when you're out there and you're really nervous, just being around other women who are really supportive and who will say nice shot if you make a nice shot helps them to relax. And I think they're going to surprise a lot of people if they play like they did in the Saskatchewan final.
Well, I hope you get a chance to talk to her. I'm sure you will. She does not seem to scare easily, but I'll be honest with you. I've just watched curling for years, and I was afraid of Rachel Homan. And then I did an event with her, and I'm like, you're not only not scary, you're funny and you're cool. And she's like, well, I'm playing a game. She goes, I'm not on the ice right now. I wouldn't want to line up against her. I can't think she's going to be throwing bouquets at the feet of Scott Ackerman. Like, how much of this is mental, Cathy? You've been at that level. How much of it is mental versus, Tom, what do you think?
Well, you look at some of the best players of all time, and you don't see a lot of emotion. Back in the day, someone like Connie Lalaberty, Al Hackner. Now you go forward to a guy like Kevin Cooey. These people aren't the chuckleophagus. They're not dropping, funny comments, and but they're also not throwing themselves in the hack if one of their players misses, and they're not high-fiving when people come down. We tend to love people that show emotion because it's fun to watch. But this at a skip level, as a player, I wanted somebody who was on an even keel, who I just felt it didn't matter what we left him or her, that they were going to make it, and that was their role. And so Rachel Homan is one of them. She is as fierce as a competitor as you'd ever want. But you're right. I mean, she spent a weekend here when she was in playing mixed doubles. And Rachel off the ice is not Rachel on the ice. But it's not about an intimidation factor. It's just where these athletes go to dial it in to be the best that they can be. And you can't fault them on that, but they can be pretty scary to play against, for sure.
Well, and to double down, she's like, Rod, you take a helmet off any hockey player or football player, they probably look no different than I do, but I don't have anything on my face, right? So that's what's great, to do interviews like this and get to know the athletes. That's the thing that's helped so much. And, while we're sitting here talking about this, I wanted to call Jennifer Jones Queen of Hearts, and a lot of people do, but I'm a Sask guy, and to me, there's only one. Do you have any memories of Sandra Schmirler, Sandra Pedersen? You must.
Oh, gosh, yeah. You know what? It's really interesting. So I was in Hinton, Alberta on the weekend for the Alberta finals because my son's playing with Kevin Cooey this year, and we were coming back. And he said to me, Mom, do you think that Sandra or Jennifer is the greatest of all time? And it's such an unfair question because Jennifer had the longevity that unfortunately Sandra never got to have. But the one thing that I don't think anyone can ever argue about is that Sandra changed the face of curling. It was when the rules went to free guard zone, and a lot of the women's teams were not interested in trying to play that way. They tried to keep it simple, and Sandra embraced it completely. And she forced all the other women's teams to be better because you couldn't beat her by running anymore. You had to play with her. And she still will always be somebody very, very special.
Yeah, well, we all as sports fan bases and regions carry some wounds. And for SAS sports fans, that's a tough one, that we were never able to see what that could have been, But you mentioned your son and also your nephew, we just got around to that. You guys are like the first family of curling. How much are you looking forward to the Brier because of that?
So much. My brother, so that's Tyler Tardy's dad, they moved to BC with his medical career years ago. So the boys never grew up in the same province, but we would always go back and forth a couple times a year. And those two have been attached at the hip since birth, and they'd always talked about the dream of playing together. And now it's happening, and they're playing with someone like Kevin Cooey. I think I watch sometimes because they natter at each other constantly. And I think Kevin thought, I left my children at home, but he's got two new ones to deal with. But they bring life to the team. They're so excited. They were disappointed, obviously, to lose the Alberta final. And interestingly enough, they play in Aaron Sluchinski in the first game at the Brier. So that will be a really interesting matchup. But so excited to watch your own kid in the Brier. It doesn't get much better.
Well, these are exciting times, and the Scotties field's obviously been out for a while, but the Briers has now been decided. You can find them all at curling.ca. And you can also get tickets there, curling.ca/tickets. Well, Cathy, I appreciate you coming on. Big fan of your career. One province over, respect it, and enjoy this for all that it is. It's the best time of year,
as you know. Sure will. Thank you.
Cathy Gauthier joining us as we talk curling for Curling Canada every week. And the Scotties at hand in Calgary, and followed by the Montana's Brier presented by AGI. And for all the information and tickets, go to curling.ca.